The video recording portion, which she is done right now. Just so you know, this will be recorded and it will be aired actually on the radio. So guys, please be wary of your cell phones and speaking out of turn. And we just have one rule, and it's going to be whenever we say live to the audience, we really want to hear so everybody knows that we're in front of a live to the audience. Thank you very much. So just like a minute as soon as she sits down, we'll start. Alright, here we go. Oh, does everybody have a raffle ticket before I start? He does not have a raffle ticket.
Hi, Lee. Hello.
Does anybody else do not have a raffle ticket?
Nope, that's all I know.
Okay.
I miss her. We have a regular guy. Mark doesn't care. I just screamed about it. Shit. I just said, I can't share. He's like, even the lifeguards are woke. He's like, if you're not clear, okay, then they won't rescue you. Are you serious? I have no regrets. So everyone was like shocked outside. I got up as far as I missed our typical guy.
The following is brought to you in part by MFC Studios. The views of the show's host and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the management, owners, or staff of this radio station. And now, it came from the radio.
And welcome once again to It Came From The Radio, the official The Big Apple Con. This is your host, Mark Torres, speaking. We are here live in front of a live studio audience at the East Meadow Public Library for our 79th live show. And I'm here with my co-host, Man Jenny Feldy.
Howdy doody, welcome.
And we have our special guest we're going to be talking to, with, and about, which is awesome because he's right here, stand-up comedian Bryan Mckenna. So on this week's show, we're going to be talking to Bryan in just a little bit, but before we do that, we have to take it away with the news. The news is brought to you in part by the fine folks of the Big Apple Con, which we are the official radio show of, celebrating over 8 years of comic book and pop culture stuff. For more information, go to www.bigapplecc.com. The next convention is scheduled for November the 23rd. The show is also brought to you in part by the fine folks of sci-fi.radio. That's sci-fi for your Wi-Fi. Also want to give our shout outs to our Patreons, of which there are Danny Grillo, award-winning director Jared Burrell, Kyle Horn, Lily Cortez, Newsday famous Dresden Media, Unchikon, Shad Rabbit Art, Yasmin Array, Rosa, and the Hurricane. If you want to have your own little shout out, go to our website, www.itcamefromradio.com. There's a little button on there that takes you right to our Patreon page. Also on the It Came From The Radio website is my comic, Designated, which took 30 years to make, and it was recently performed as a radio play at the New York Comic Con, as well as at the East Meadow Public Library for the MCon. We'll be performing it again on April 21st at 1:30 p.m. So guys, make sure you go join us there. It tells the tale of two warring alien races fighting over a newly discovered power source. The war finds its way to the planet Earth, and as a result, humans gain abilities. As always, we start off with the sad news. So let's see. Sad news is actor Chance Perdomo also died recently from a motorcycle accident. Chance was perhaps best known for his role as Ambrose Spellman, which is Sabrina's cousin, in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and that of Andre Anderson in the series Gen V. Jen, are you familiar with his work?
Yes, familiar, and I just heard recently, I this could be wrong, but maybe 70% of organ donors are motorcyclists. I just heard this the other day, so, you know, I guess you kind of know what you're doing if you're riding a motorcycle. I'm not saying you should know, but anyway, I'll move on. Do you have any thoughts on this person's death? You want to talk about someone's death?
I always like to start a live show with death, as we do. Yeah, we like to do the light topics here on, whatever it is, a Tuesday at 7 p.m. I actually don't know who that actor is, so I don't know. I guess I just never. Is he new?
Sabrina. Ever see Sabrina?
Sabrina, the Teenage Witch.
On
Netflix.
Netflix.
No, I watched the good one, which was from the 90s.
Yeah,
I don't watch the Netflix. No, I'm good. No, I don't know who it is.
That's fair enough, but to go to your point, we always start off with the sad news because, as my co-host always said, that there's nowhere to go but up. So we start with sad and then we progress upward.
Not this co-host.
Not this co-host, yeah. So moving on, so he was 27 years old. So moving on to more sad news. Actor Louis Gossett Jr. also died recently, as of this recording, no cause of death has been announced. In his over 60-year career, Louis has been in just about everything, crossing all genres of entertainment. I personally remember him most from the Gideon Oliver TV series. It was made for TV movies back on ABC back in the day. He was a crime-solving anthropologist, as well as the Iron Eagle series, of which there was 4 of them, and Lou was in all of them. He was 87. Are you familiar with Louis Gossett Jr.'s work, Bryan? You're gonna nod? Yes. Would you like to start?
Yeah, I know his work, but not for his good work. I only know he did one really bad movie called Iron Eagle, which, look, none of you even reacted, so you didn't even know he made it. But it's like a spin on Top Gun, the movie Top Gun, but he plays like the grizzled pilot vet who's teaching his young person, whatever. It's a bad movie. But it's so bad it's good. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those movies. That's why I actually like Louis Gossett Jr.
What about you, Jen? You familiar with Lou's work?
No, but I did recently hear that Top Gun was pushed by the CIA.
Alright, quickly moving on. For the last bit of sad news, actor Joseph Flattery also died recently after a quote-unquote short illness. While most famous for his work on 131 episodes of SCTV from 1976 to 1984, as well as The Heckler and Happy Gilmore, 65 episodes of Maniac Mansion, 26 episodes of Police Academy the series, and 18 episodes of Freaks and Geeks, I mean Mark, remember him most as Count Floyd, which is a character he originated on SCTV and was on the completely mental misadventures of Ed Grimley. Basically, it was like a horror show host, but like a really bad horror show host, and he showed movies that weren't scary at all. And his gimmick that, despite him being a vampire, he used to howl like a werewolf, which was the joke, was that he has no idea what an actual vampire does. So that was part of the joke. And it was just really funny seeing, whenever I used to watch the completely misadventures of Ed Grimley, the show with Martin Short, as he plays Ed Grimley, and he always loves watching Count Floyd. And his segments were just utterly ridiculous as to how bad they were. And I don't know if that was like based on something that was really happening at the time or back then as a kid, which Tina Cornerstone and Charlie Stones you might allude to. But it was really enjoyable to see. Are you familiar with Count Floyd there, Bryan? No, not familiar. Jen?
No, but the guy who died, I'm familiar with him. And he was so funny, and definitely check him out if you like crazy, wacky sketch comedy that's way more silly than SNL, SCTV. Yeah, so I don't want to get his name wrong, or repeat it. Joseph or Joe Flattery. Yeah, super funny, original.
Alright, so that's it for the sad news. We're going to move on to the not as sad news. From the That's a Lot of Nuts department. The new Godzilla King Kong sequel has held on to the #1 spot in the domestic box office, pulling in an additional $31 million in ticket sales in its second week of release, beating out the new action film Monkey Man, which came in at the #2 spot, making $10 million in its first week of release. For those of you keeping track, Dune Part 2 is still the highest grossing film this year so far, making $265 million, followed by Kung Fu Panda Part 4 with $166 million, and the aforementioned Godzilla film sits at #3 with $136 million. Those are the only 3 films, so once again, so far, that have broken the $100 million mark this year. Did you actually get to see Dune, Godzilla, and or Kung Fu Panda, Bryan?
No, I haven't seen any of those. Like not even one of them. You know what I mean? Like not even a minute of one of them. Do you have the numbers? There's no way to pull up the numbers for Godzilla, like the numbers in Japan, right? No? Because I feel like he kind of destroys Japan. Isn't that the whole point? I would like to see if that's the highest grossing film in that country, but no, I haven't seen it. Have you seen them? I haven't. Yeah, you like them?
I'm a Godzilla fan, so through and through. And you know, it's not Shakespeare; it's a Godzilla movie. So you take it with a grain of salt as to what to see. I have not seen Dune, and I've never seen any of the Kung Fu Panda movies, so I wouldn't even bother to see the 4th one. But Godzilla's my man. He's the man.
What do you like about it? What do you like about Godzilla? Top 3 things.
So when I was a kid, I used to love seeing a guy in a rubber suit destroying stuff. Like there's just something so pure about him, like some wacky guy in a rubber suit, and it's like the Muppets, where you just kind of believe that it's a real thing, even though you know it's a guy in a suit or a sock puppet. Like it's just one of those things that just suspends the disbelief, and that's why I really enjoyed the Godzilla movies. And then when he died, and spoilers, in the 1992 one, it was emotional because Godzilla died, and I brought it back.
Now I know why we started with the death theme. I see why he really enjoys when Godzilla destroys everything, so now it makes sense. Okay.
I said this before, but I highly recommend if you don't speak Spanish fluently, go on the Spanish channel, get high, watch Godzilla, and then you're watching 2 different languages you don't understand. You barely understand English. I did this like 20 years ago when I was in college, and I was like, I barely speak Spanish. I don't know any of the languages on my television. Wow, this is really strong. But that was 20 years ago, so we can talk about it.
So moving on, from the Holy Lawsuit Batman Follow-Up Department. During a previous episode of our show, we reported that Chris Wozniak, who at the time was being sued by DC Comics for, quote, writing an unauthorized Batman story, unquote. Chris says, I wrote a Batman Riddler story that was used to make the $900 million film The Batman. Warner Brothers attorneys are not disputing that they used my story to make the film, even they know I can improve that. So instead of providing fair credit and compensation, they're having DC Comics sue me for writing an unauthorized Batman story. Everyone who has worked for or freelanced at DC Comics in the 90s knows that established freelancers were given free license to submit stories anytime they wanted. It's probably how 90% of DC Comics were made. And if DC Comics liked your story, they put it under contract. That was standard company practice for decades. But my Batman story is the only one that was ever used without a contract in place, and Warner Bros. Knows that's a huge problem. So as anyone would, I asked to be paid for my contribution. All I asked was for it to be credited and get rights received, no damages, no extras of any kind. But instead of doing what's right, Warner Bros. And DC Comics opted to fabricate a ridiculous lawsuit designed to bankrupt a single dad with a 10-year-old daughter. They're even seeking legal fees, which is an estimate that could be nearly $500,000. They're demanding that I back off. I will not. Again, DC Comics is suing a freelancer for writing and submitting a Batman story 30 years ago. Suing a freelancer for simply submitting a story is completely unprecedented. It's something all freelance writers did at the time and was regularly encouraged by DC Comics. Many former DC writers and editors are willing to confirm this as a regularly accepted practice, business as usual. But because Warner Bros. Neglected to negotiate the rights for my story, they're trying to have DC Comics run me off rather than paying me. Now a judge has ruled on the case. In a 45-page decision letter, the judge said that Chris, quote, intentionally and without consent, lifted material from DC Comics' works to create his story, which, quote, liberally exploits, indeed is rife with, unquote, Batman characters and plot elements. The judge also said key similarities between the works, which are serial killers who are lonely bent on destroying society, those who taught pursuers with, quote-unquote, clues and riddles, and moments of clarity or epiphany that propelled villains of crime who were too commonplace to support Chris's copyright claims. And finally, the lawyer rejected Wozniak's wholly speculative claim about how Warner Bros. Might have gotten access to the story, as well as turned down the entire claim on its head by saying, quote, the story's use of the Batman character and surrounding protected elements is an act of clear and blatant copyright infringement. Chris Lawyer says we respectfully disagree with the court's decision and considering our next steps. So, in the old days, as they do now, they have freelancers out there who write comic books, who write stories, they submit them to get DC, to Marvel, and they get published. They decided to take one of those stories and they made a movie out of it. The points in the comic book that was written is clearly there. But now they're saying that this guy is using copyright infringing on DC's characters by using DC characters in a comic that he submitted to be printed. That's just insane.
Yeah.
Jen?
I feel like it's like commenting on a divorce. I wasn't there, it's a little tricky, you know, there's a lot of nuance that we can't really see, but, you know, you want to get involved with some big corporation that you don't know, that you don't have family members or nepotism with. How can you expect them to treat you well? And we're going to be finding this out with a lot of different big organizations, as we already are this year, that they can't be trusted. So, you know, take that for what it is.
I was always a Superman fan, so I don't really care.
But let me put this in perspective for you.
Sure.
Ryan. Let's say you have a comedy out, and as you know, many comedians go out there and they have TV shows or movies based on their act.
Yeah.
So if you did an act and somebody just made something from your act without crediting you, isn't that kind of crazy? And then they're saying that you're copyright infringing on the major company's characters. It's just mind-blowing to me. Has that ever anything happened in your world of comedy?
I mean, yeah, not like that. I mean, I wish I had enough money to sue someone, because I would. I would. I'm like dying to get into a lawsuit. You know what I mean? Like, I want it so bad. No, that's never happened to me, but I mean, I understand why a guy's upset, because he thinks, I mean, here's the thing. Let's be honest. He's gonna lose. He's not gonna win that battle. You're not gonna beat DC, you're not gonna beat, so you're better off just going, all right, write another story. I mean, just keep writing and hope that, you know, you catch someone stealing the next thing you write. You know, there's no way you're not going to beat DC. It's impossible. You can't beat corporations. They just, you know why? Because they bleed you dry. They'll just keep, you have to get a lawyer and postpone and postpone and postpone, and then all of a sudden, like you said, he's a single dad, he's going to be bankrupt. I go, he'll be bankrupt probably by June. You know what I'm saying? And I go, that's it. So it's like, you're better off just, sure, but this is the thing. Injustices happen every single day in every business. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any leverage. It's going to be too hard to fight him, unless it's something so blatant where, like, he's like, my Batman had 1 ear and this one has 1 ear. Like, there's no way to prove it. It's a bland story. But anyway, I mean, I hope he doesn't use me as a character witness, because I wouldn't be a good one.
But nuance, maybe there is a little detail, and also. Alex Jones is about to sue the CIA. So we have this guy suing Marvel. There's going to be a lot of lawsuits this year against big corporations, so stay tuned. Very interesting.
So moving on, from the sequel department, none other than Disney, under its 20th Century Studios banner, has announced a new X-Files series is in the works with director-writer Ryan Coogler in charge of the production. Ryan is best known for making the Black Panther films, as well as the very first Creed movie. Original X-Files creator Chris Carter, which has no involvement in this iteration, had this to say. I just asked Ryan what his ideas were, and he told me, and I said, those sound like good ideas. It's interesting, people say, aren't you possessive of it? And I say, no, I'm looking forward to see what somebody else does with it. No matter what no matter what he has, it's a hard job. Casting is a hard job. Mounting is a hard job. All the problems that I dealt with are going to be his problem. For those of you who don't know, or care for that matter, the original series was about 2 FBI agents, one a conspiracy theorist, the other a skeptic, investigating unsolved cases involving paranormal, which ran on Fox from 1993 to 2001, only to be brought back for 2 more seasons in 2016. The series also spawned 2 movies, Fight for the Future and I Want to Believe, that came out 10 years apart. Now, what's interesting is that we, that came from the radio, have a connection to Chris Carter, which Jen does not know about.
Nope.
Back in the day, because we've been on the air for almost over 20 years now, we got contacted by Chris Carter's people to be a guest on our show. And this was early on when we were starting out, and we did not have the ability to do pre-recorded interviews. It was either you call in on the station or you showed up at the station, and that's it.
Right.
So his people were like, oh, we were only available for this day. But I had already booked another guest for that day, and so I'm like, I can't, I already have this day booked, can you come another day? And they were like, no, he's going to be doing this because he wanted to promote the second X-Files movie. And he was like, no, we can't do it, the only way we can do it is on this particular day. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I have somebody else booked, I'm not going to kick them out.
Who did you have booked?
It was the Migos Stretch Hulk And it was some guys who had their own little it was like a video series. It wasn't in a podcast, it was like a video series of comic book sketches that they did. It was Keith Gleason, John Simone, and I forget the third guy, sorry guy. But they were on the show, they came down to the studio and they were guests. And then the movie flopped. So I kind of felt good that Chris Carter was like, no, we don't want to do any other day but that particular day, and if you don't want to do it, screw you guys. And then the movie failed, so I always felt kind of good that maybe because he wasn't on our show, our little show, the movie did terrible.
And you did the right thing. You did the right thing.
Did I?
Yeah, you don't cancel. You don't cancel.
Huh?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you get a bigger option. Too bad. You should have had a bigger option booked. It's just not the right thing to do.
Brian, were you a fan of X-Files?
Yeah, I just want to say, you never cancel. I mean, I was supposed to do the Tonight Show tonight, but I was like, I'm going to the East Meadow Public Library. Right? So, let's keep it all in perspective, right? No, I did like the X-Files, but it's kind of, that show kind of, I mean, I only watched like a few episodes, and I don't know, like one of them, like the alien was naked, so I was like, I don't know if I should be watching this. You know what I mean? Like, it was a weird episode that I watched. Also, I'm not 100% sure it was the X-Files. I don't know. I could have been watching something else, I'm not sure, so.
I like my aliens with clothes on.
You were watching the X-Files?
I might have been watching that, yeah.
There you go.
So for the final bit of news, also from the sequel department, none other than Warner Brothers has announced that a fifth Matrix movie is in development with Drew Goddard as the new writer/director, leaving the original co-creator, writer-director of the previous 4 films, Lana Wachowski, as just the executive producer on the project. Drew is best known for writing the original Cloverfield, World War Z, The Martian, and he wrote and directed Cabin in the Woods, the film. Executives said, Drew came to Warner Brothers with a new idea, and we all believe this would be an incredible way to continue the Matrix world by both honoring what Lana and Lily began over 25 years ago and offering a unique perspective based on his own love of the series and characters. The entire team of Warner Brothers Discovery is thrilled for Drew to be making this new Matrix film, adding to his vision to the client's cinematic canon to what Wachowski's spent a quarter of a century building here at the studio. Of note, the last Matrix movie grossed only $37.6 million against a $190 million budget in a domestic box office, which explains why they're no longer really involved with the movie. Did you see any of the Matrix? Were you a fan? Did you see the newest one, Brian?
Yeah. The Matrix I like. I did not see the newest one, so I guess that's probably my fault. It only made 37 million. Right? I guess. I didn't see the new one. Also, like, this is how, unfortunately, maybe you guys would agree or disagree. I don't think Hollywood is very original anymore. Mm-hmm. All we do is make sequels or some spin-off version of this other universe and this. It's like no one comes up with any original ideas. And I think the problem with that is the internet is probably a major issue because so many people are focusing their stuff like. The creative stuff is more going towards the internet and field than it is kind of sitting down writing scripts and really hammering, because a script takes how long? I mean, you wrote a script, it took you 30 years to write that one, so it's like, when's the second one coming?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We have to wait another 35 for the second one, so it's like, that's my point is that I don't like, I hate sequels after a certain point. I like maybe 2, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'll give you The Godfather 2, but come on, man, the third one, come on, it's not a good movie. So like, I don't know. It's just I really went on a rant here, huh? I really went off the rails here. Answer, I have seen The Matrix. I did not see the last one, yes.
That's because we're in the Matrix, so they can only pick movies from the Matrix. You have to get out of the Matrix, you can get new storylines.
Yeah, correct.
So that's it for the news, thankfully. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back in front of the live studio audience. Comedian Bryan Mckenna. Say hi, Bryan.
Oh, hello everyone again.
So, Bryan, I've only met you recently because you were kind enough to be part of my comic book reading at New York Comic Con. But is that something that you had thought about when you started to be performing in a radio play, or is that something that just kind of came and fell into your pants?
You called, you asked me, and I said yes. That's how it worked. I would have done anything. As you see, I don't turn a lot of stuff down. That's why I'm here. No, I'm kidding. You know what? Honestly, that was cool. I never done a play live before. so it was kind of interesting to have to read as a character live and kind of see people's reactions as I was doing it. So it wasn't something I ever thought I would do, but I was happy I did it.
So as a professional stand-up comic, is that something that was in your wheelhouse to do improv, to be in front of a live audience when you were starting out as young Bryan? Were you always young Bryan, or was it just little Bryan? What was the name back then?
The young Bryan, that's cute. What was the question?
Improv.
Improv. You're asking, do I like to improv?
Yes,
enjoy it?
yes.
Yeah, I mean, I never really took like an improv class. Like I never went to there's professional improv people who are they're amazing. If you ever go to like a live improv show, it's really something to see because they could go off on tangents that I wish I could do. But as a stand-up comic, I do enjoy talking to the crowd. A lot of my stand-up when I do stand-up is very I like talking to people in the moment because I think it's something that's because of cell phones and stuff, we're never in the moment anymore. So those things that happen in a live show brings you back instantly into the moment. So that's why I enjoy doing it. That's why I enjoy the stand-up side of crowd work and improv.
Which perfectly leads me to my question. Why do you like talking to the public regularly? Because you kind of have to. And you might sign up for a show, 6 months, and you still have to do it. Why do you want to talk? What do you have to talk about? What drives you?
Probably a bad childhood. It's probably, no, I had a good childhood. My mother was listening. Why do I like talking to the people? It's a great question. I don't know. I was kind of a funny kid. So when I was a funny kid, I was always funny with my friends. What's funny is I wasn't even the funniest person of my friends. I have friends who are way funnier than me, considerably funnier than me. My little sister is funnier than me. But they don't do stand-up. So when I started doing stand-up, it was very interesting because the people I knew were like, well, you're not funny. So you haven't said a funny thing ever. What makes you think you can do? It was kind of an interesting thing. And I think everyone said that to me. Everyone was like, you're not the funny one. We have so-and-so's funnier than you. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I think I could do it. And then that was kind of how it started. That was the first thing. And then I was always kind of funny with my friends. And then that was it, really. It's not really that interesting.
Are there any topics that you're driven to talk about?
Topics that I'm driven to talk about? No, I kind of talk about whatever is completely ridiculous in our society. And we have a lot to choose from now. It's really enjoyable. It's a really good time for comedy if you like stand-up because the world has gotten so insane.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you can't even, the bits write themselves because you're like, I can't even imagine. We have another election coming up. Relax, I'm not going to talk about it. I don't want to divide the room. But that alone is comical. You know what I mean? That alone is kind of, how did we get back in the same position that we're in? It's just interesting to me. But yeah, there's no real topic that I'm driven to. It's kind of whatever pops in my head about whatever's kind of going on. I do like to talk about my family though. That's kind of fun. But that's the only thing. It's kind of my family and my immediate relationships. And also, why is CBS? Why is everything locked up in CBS? That's another issue that I've been tackling lately. No, do you guys? Is this Long Island have that problem? Yeah, you guys have that problem? Gatorade is padlocked. I don't really understand. Yeah, they lock everything up it makes you think should I have been stealing from CBS? But anyway, that's another topic.
Well, I'm very passionate about the how are you. I have 2 or 3 pages written why we should abolish how are you. It should just be hi, unless you really want to ask a question. Because it's a question, and people use it as a statement, and then they say, how are you? And they just keep walking, and I'm still answering. And they're over here, but that's another day.
So when it comes to topics,
Yeah.
is there a line, and do you ever think about crossing that line?
Yeah, what's the line?
There's no line. There's absolutely. I come from a place where you can't offend me. There's nothing anyone could ever say to offend me. No joke has ever offended me. If you go to a comedy club and get offended, that's like going to a library and getting offended by books. They're gonna be there. You know what I'm saying? So it's you shouldn't. For me, there's no topic that is off limits. I've heard every topic be made fun of, and no matter how awful the topic you're like, oh, you can't joke about that. I've heard it. and I've heard jokes that make me laugh. So for me, there's no topic offline. I don't necessarily choose those topics to speak about because you can do them, but you're gonna most likely anger 50% of the people that you're talking to. And to me, the idea is not necessarily to do that. The idea is to kind of bring people together versus kind of tearing us apart. So that's what I choose to do. But again, I've heard comedians who are very rough, and the jokes are rough, and I've heard them, and they are funny. So I think there's a genre for it. If you don't like it, I just say don't listen. That's probably what I would say if you don't like those kind of topics being talked about. But to each their own.
Which leads me to my next question. So very similar. What topics do you feel sort of driven to joke about, but you don't because you don't feel like dealing with the repercussions, online or in person? Like what things will you skip? Like rape, Nazis, Hitler, KKK. I'm just going through my own set list. This is part of it.
I mean, what's not funny about Hitler? I mean, come on, guys. I don't do any sort of rape jokes. I don't do any sort of, jokes like that. I mean, if there was a funny Hitler joke, I would do it. I just haven't found one.
I'll give you one.
Yeah, okay. We'll talk about it after the show. I'll absolutely do it. I have no problem. No, I stay away from anything where is sort of too taboo. It's just not. It's just I don't try to mine for those things. I don't look for the funny in those things. I'm sure I probably could find something that's either interesting or funny within it, but I personally don't do that. But again, I've heard comedians do it, and good for them that they can pull it off. I just choose not to do comedy that way. But again, I don't think anything's off limits, so there's no limit to whatever. I mean, you should be able to joke about anything at a comedy club. I'm not joking about anything at a supermarket with someone. I'm not joking about anything, obviously you have to be a human being when you leave the comedy club. But at the comedy club, I'm like, everything's kind of, that's why we're all here, to kind of see a ridiculous version of the world through someone else's eyes. That's what I choose to do.
So when you're making your comedy set,
Yeah.
without doing crowd work, in your mind, you're anticipating a kind of reaction. Did you ever have to turn on the fly when the audience isn't with you, or do you stick to your set and just go for your guns because you're like, I know this is funny, I just have a bad audience? I bring this up because I remember I went to a comedy show in Atlantic City, and it was me and a couple of my friends, and we were like the only guys who were of a certain age, and everybody else was like of a different certain age.
Okay.
And the comedian was talking about stuff specifically for me and my friends, and we were the only ones laughing in the entire arena, and everyone else was just like dead silent, and he just kept on going for it, and we felt bad because this guy was funny to us, but he was dying in the room.
Yeah. So you're asking me if I bombed before. The answer is yes, many nights. There was many nights in Toronto. I remember I bombed one time after the guy from 30 Rock. Not Tracy Morgan, the other Judah Friedlander. If you don't know who he is, he's in the TV show 30 Rock. I had to go on after him one night. That was the worst night of my life. That was pretty bad. I had to just couldn't figure it out, couldn't transition. Sometimes when you're a comedian, you're up on stage, and if your jokes aren't working necessarily, then you got to pivot to crowd work. And if that is also not working, I said, well, then what do you do? And then what do you do is that's when you just kind of power through whatever, or say goodnight and get off the stage. I mean, depends on how much money they're paying me. If they pay me a decent amount of money, I will power through and do the exact time that they said. Like, I've had shows where they're like, you have to do 30 minutes, and I've been silent for 30 minutes, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing the 30 minutes though. So no matter what's going to happen, I'm going to get to that 30, because otherwise if I don't, they won't pay you. So I'll power through, but you get a thick skin doing stand-up after a period of time. And also, it's not necessarily that people don't find you funny or even find me funny. I don't take it personal anymore. I used to take it personal in the early parts of or first couple of years of doing stand-up. I took it very personal, like, oh, you don't think I'm funny, But also, I realize now, like, after doing it for as long as I've been doing it, it's more a stylistic thing. It's that not everyone's going to enjoy your style. I have friends who don't think Kevin Hart is funny. They say, I don't think Kevin Hart is funny. And I'm like, well, he just sold out 80,000 seats at the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium. So I go, he's funny. You can say whatever you want. You may not like it, but somebody's buying tickets to go see him. So in the grand scheme of things, it's like, that's how I look at it. I think that's a healthier approach as opposed to being mad all the time. It's kind of like, all right, you just didn't buy into what I think is funny, and that's okay. Like, that's, you know, again, who was the actor you guys named that passed away?
Joe Flattery.
Joe Flattery. Joe Flattery, I'm sure somebody in this room didn't think he was funny, but he was on how many TV shows and all that stuff, and I go, he's obviously a funny guy, you just don't like the style, and that's okay. And like, people don't think Rodney Dangerfield was funny. You know what I'm saying? Rodney Dangerfield was funny, but you may not like that style of it. You know what I mean? Like, and if you don't like it, then that's what it is. You just kind of move on. You know?
So when you do a stand-up set, usually, you're gonna repeat a joke 5 times, 100 times, 200 times. What do you do when you have a show scheduled and you just really don't feel like telling me 1, 2, or 3 jokes for the 50th time?
What do I do?
Drugs?
What do I do? No, I don't do drugs. I would, here's what's interesting. A joke this is very inside, so if you guys are bored, I get it. A joke for a comedian is never done. So that's what's interesting about doing it the 50th time. Recently, this happened just a couple months ago. I was telling a joke for probably about a year and a half, and it always did well. And then one night I figured out how to do it. I figured out actually how to perform it. And it had to do with me turning my face more to the right and to the left side to make the audience understand that I was talking about 2 different things. And it got a bigger laugh, and I went, wait a minute, this is after a year and a half. I mean, it always did well. I always thought the joke was doing well, but it was a matter of going left or right, you know what I mean? So it takes a while so when you say, like, what do you do when you don't want to tell the joke? It's like, I just tell the joke at the 51st time. I just kind of power through it, like I said, and I do it because, that's what it is. It's a craft. It's not, people think it's like, oh, you walk out and just figure it out. You just walk out. These guys look like they're just having a conversation. They're not. No one's having a conversation. There's some guys who would go up and just kind of pinpoint, and like they go up with kind of an idea. There's very few of those people that are able to do that well. And the guys that do it, they're great, but my point is that I don't do that. That's not my style. I like to craft over and over and over again. And like I said, after a year and a half, I figured out how to tell that one joke. So, maybe you guys won't come and see me tell it. I'm not going to do it now. That's because you haven't paid me enough. So.
What about the 500th time telling a joke?
That's assuming that I'm still wanting to do it at the 500th time. Yeah, you just do it. Why do you do stand-up, right? You don't like doing it? You don't like telling a joke the 50th time?
Yeah, it bores me a little bit.
It's
like I've heard it. I've heard you guys laugh. Like,
yeah, but you haven't heard that audience laugh that night.
Well, I'll explain.
The way I work is like, I got a bunch of A+ my whole life, National Honor Society. It's like 11th grade. No, 11th grade, whatever. It's like I was done, I got it, I know I can do it, who cares? So I basically almost failed out my senior year because I just don't care. Like once I know I can do something, I'm like, okay, I got it, now we can move on. So that's for me. So you'd probably be great at marriage because you would do the same thing multiple times, thousands of times, and not get bored. So, that's great.
It's great that you just brought that up because I am good at marriage because my wife just walked into the back. So thank you for saying that, but I would be good at marriage, yes.
Yeah, see?
Honey, am I good at marriage? Yeah, there you go. I don't know. I mean, look, you almost failed out of high school. Look at you now.
So the one thing I've always heard about comedians is that people often assume that they have to be on all the time and be funny. But see, you're rolling your eyes because you know exactly. Is that an actual thing, and how upsetting is that to you to hear? Hey, you're a comedian, be funny right now.
I don't enjoy that aspect of it. When someone's like, hey, tell me a joke. Make me laugh. I mean, it would be like if someone was a teacher and you're like, all right, sit down. Let's go over the Cuban Missile Crisis real quick. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the same sort of idea that it is. But at the same time, I understand because they're excited. Maybe they've never met a comedian before, so they're like, please, let's have this moment of where I'm, kind of funny. Mm-hmm. I usually explain to them that that's not how it works, and then I say, I charge $25 for a ticket, and you can come anytime. Or I'll give you a free ticket. You can come and watch me do where it's supposed to be heard. Because the way that I kind of do jokes, it's kind of there's a lot of attitude and energy and stuff, and all that is put into the act there's reasons for it. So for me to tell you why I don't like X, Y, and Z, and this is the joke, I think it would fall flat. People are like, that guy's not funny. You know what I mean? But I don't get mad at that necessarily. But it can kind of be annoying, if you get it too many times in a row. But not that many people. I don't really disclose that I'm a comedian to too many people. People ask me what I do, and I'm like, I paint. That's what I do. I'm a painter because that's way boring. They're like, oh, that's not what I'm talking about.
You paint them, right?
Yeah, just paint them. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know if you've ever gotten it as a
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time. And the more stand-up I do, and the more movies and theatrics I do, I feel like the more boring and monotone and ugly I look in real life. Because you just are like, oh, I gotta get dressed up and do all this. So yeah, it just makes you a worse person in real life. For me, but I'm a weirdo. So we'll move on to the next one. A lot of stand-up comedians talk about like there's a high when you're on stage. I feel like, I'm just gonna answer, I bet you don't have the high as much, the come down as much. Because I feel like it's natural for you, you're in like a balanced homeostasis state. That's just my analysis of him, that it's like, he doesn't have to go here and here. But a lot of comedians do talk about having this high, and the next day, for me, I feel hungover, I don't drink alcohol, but I will feel hungover, just depleted, like I was in a windstorm. So how do you feel the next day? Do you find that there's highs and lows, or, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I wish I had homeostasis when I drive on the Belt Parkway on the way home there. And I wish I was nice and calm for that. No, I'm just portraying a nice calm. I'm not necessarily calm all the time. My wife would absolutely agree that I'm not calm. The thing is about it is, no, I don't get, someone told me a long time ago, somebody I work with, a guy named Jim Brewer, I don't know if you guys know who he is. He told me a long time ago, never get too high on the highs and never get too low on the lows.
Yeah.
Which is a good analogy for life also, is just kind of when something good is happening, just enjoy it for it being good, but don't get like, oh, this is all, it's not going to be amazing, because then, like you said, the come down is horrible. I do so many shows in New York City and around the country that doing a show to me is sort of just another day. It's kind of like when someone's showing up to work and kind of clicking a ticket. Sure, there are better shows, but just like anyone else, you have a better day at work than you did yesterday, you did today, or something like that. So it's kind of like that. That's sort of the way I look at it. It's not as exciting as you think. People think stand-up comedy is incredibly exciting. It's really, the day-to-day is very boring and meticulous, so it's not as exciting as people want it to believe.
Alright. What about the enemy of the stand-up comic? Hecklers. How do you deal with hecklers?
Love them. Love them.
Do you love them?
Love them.
It depends on the heckler, it depends on my mood, which is 100% honest. It depends on what they're yelling out. I've never really gotten many nasty hecklers. I've gotten people that like yell something out because they're excited about something I'm talking about, or they agree with what I'm talking about. I get a lot of positive heckles, which is nice. I don't really get the people who are kind of combative. How do I deal with them? I honestly just go with whatever they're saying. Or I'll ask them questions, I'll find out what's the root of the problem. Sometimes people just want attention too. Most hecklers kind of just want attention, So it depends on, I tend to not go at them too hard. I mean, after the Chris Rock situation, when he got slapped by his heckler, Will Smith, I wish Will Smith would jump in my show and smack me. Oh God, that's the lawsuit I'm trying to get in, people. That would be it. It would be Bryan Mckenna Studios after that. That's how I would own that. No, I don't. After that, I mean, people were like, they're gonna attack comedians next. I'm like, no, Chris Rock got attacked. We're doing a show in a laundromat. No one is. What are we getting heckled by the laundry? Like nobody's. No, I don't feel. There's nothing. A little secret of stand-up is you never be as whatever they say. You can only be as mean as whatever they say. That's a little secret, because you can't, if someone says something like, you're not funny, you can only match that energy if you're not funny. You can't all of a sudden start cursing at them, because the people are like, whoa, they didn't even mean that, So it's like one of those things. That's a little secret of stand-up. It's very inside.
Where did the jokes come from?
Where did my joke come from?
Mm-hmm.
God. I hope it's God. I don't know. There's I do believe in how do I say it? I don't know if it's God, but there is definitely what's the word? What's the word of like an in between?
Collective consciousness.
Collective consciousness. Sure, that's a lot of words. I can't even say that.
Is there a comedy god?
I don't know if there's a comedy god. I think that there's a muse. Is probably the best way, and I think every so often the muse touches you on the shoulder and kind of tells you, this is funny, you know. That's my personal belief. Some people are very meticulous with their joke writing. There's obviously structure. You can write structure, but that's, you know, very, again, kind of boring to me.
You ever wake up with a joke in your head?
Do I ever wake up with a joke in my head? No, not. Sometimes I'll go to sleep with I'll be like, man, I think this is funny, but no, and then I'll go to sleep, and sometimes I'll wake up and be like, oh, that's how I deliver it. That's how I say it. So it's more that. It's more like, that's where the technique comes in of stand-up. It's like, kind of like, oh, that's how you do that. Okay, and maybe I'll say it this way this time and see if that works. That's more of what I kind of come up with. Nothing ever comes out fully formed, almost never.
One of my favorite comedians of all time, the late Norm Macdonald. He was always like, he loves stand-up.
Yeah.
But he managed to find himself in multiple TV series. He has 2 movies out there. And in interviews, he was always like, oh, you know, people always come to me and be like, hey, if Seinfeld can do it, he's a comedian, I can do it too. But it's like a completely different mindset. And he's like, I can't act. So is that something in your mind that you want to have your own television series? Or why do you think some comedians can have television series and some cannot? Because I was a huge George Wallace fan, and he had a show, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, to answer it about me quickly, which this is obviously tonight all about me. I don't think anyone deserves a television show. I think the television genre's kind of changed a little bit. Netflix kind of ruined that, I think. So giving, like, sitcoms don't work anymore for whatever reason. They just stopped kind of working. I don't necessarily want my own TV show. I'd like to be in a TV show. Here's the thing, I want to put all my focus into stand-up. It's a very specific art form that I think is actually sort of dying a little bit because of Instagram and social media and things like that. I think it's sort of dying. But it's a craft, and I think it's important for people to do it. But like being on a show, I like to be on a show where not everything falls on me. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of show I like to do. I like to act on a show or a film or something like that where not everything relies on me. Like I like to be a bit part guy. Like that would be nice. So I don't have like a thing. But I can tell you a funny Norm Macdonald story if you want to hear it. I don't know. You guys know who Norm Macdonald is? Yes? Okay. I met Norm Macdonald a couple of years ago, obviously before he died, and I met him in Las Vegas, and he was gambling or something. He was a big gambler, Norm Macdonald. Said one of the funniest things I've ever heard to me is that he came into the green room. I was with Jim Brewer, so he knows Jim, and he came in to meet Jim, and he said hi to Jim. And then he said to me, he goes, "Hey Bryan, where are you from?" And I said, Long Island is where I'm from. And he goes, and he paused, and Norm Macdonald goes, "Long Island?" He goes, "Brewer, aren't you from Long Island?" And he goes, "Yeah." And Norm Macdonald goes, "You Long Island guys are weird. You guys all hang out with each other." And it was like such a perfect, if you know Norm Macdonald, that's his sense of humor of like, he picked out the thing that I thought would bring us together, and he's like, "That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen." So it was very nice. It was honestly, being made fun of by him was such an honor, so I always appreciate it.
Yeah, have you ever felt like you wanted to say things, or you just felt stifled, like you couldn't say anything anywhere, in a family situation, work, stand-up, anywhere, and how did you respond?
No, I unfortunately, this is probably why I don't have a lot of friends, is that I kind of say whatever I want, which is not a good way to live life, I can be honest with you, because people can't handle the truth, the kind of blunt kind of truth. So no, I'm kind of somebody who doesn't hold it in, and if I do hold it in, my wife hears it when I get home, so she's an angel for listening to me complain the amount that I've complained about things. No, so I don't, there's never been a moment, even with family, especially with family, that's why a few of us don't talk. I have 6 brothers and sisters, I'm like, I don't need all of them. I've never had that. I don't know if you guys have ever had that experience, but I don't really hold back. It's also, life's too short to hold back, so like, what are you holding back? There's like 17 wars going on, the internet's gonna take everything, it's just, who cares? Just say whatever you want.
You're lucky. Can't say the same.
So we're at social media time, so where can people find out more about you, or TikTok, or you have a TikTok dances, you do any of that stuff, or Instagram, what do you got?
You can follow me on Instagram at I am Bryan Mckenna. It's the only thing this comedy business cares about is that. I'm on Facebook and stuff. I have a funny feeling just by looking at the audience, you guys don't know anything I'm talking about. It's totally fine, I understand. If you have those things, you can follow me on those things, and if you guys ever want to come to a show, you guys have seen me, you can always send me a message, and I have no problem giving you guys free tickets. Don't tell the comedy club, but I just send me a message on there, and I can always get you guys tickets.
So speaking of free tickets, you were kind enough to give away 2 free tickets to somebody in our live studio audience.
Is that what the raffle is? You guys all showed up for the raffle. I see what's going on here. Okay.
Alright, does everybody have a raffle ticket? Make sure everybody has one before I do this. Everybody has one, everybody has one. Good. So, Bryan, you're going to give away that and a signed autograph, right? That's a
Sure.
Sure. So, pick up the number.
Okay.
See what we got. The winner, what's the number?
371066. 371066. Is it you? Is it you? Hilarious. That's so funny.
If you want to give it to somebody else, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know the situation.
Yeah.
Wow, they don't want it.
Well, no. I know John for a very long time, and he already gets free tickets to the comedy club. So that's a little bit cheating if I'm giving it to his wife. So.
Alright, second chance prize.
Sure. All right, 371059.
059.
John, if it's you.
There we go.
Perfect. There we go. Free tickets. I'm like Oprah. Everyone's getting.